Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Sara Sessions, sessions filled with conversations that feed mind and soul with heart-centered stories of everyday heroes to inspire, educate, and discover new ways of finding our own balance. Today, I am joined with my beautiful friend, Marjorie Lauzon. She's also a colleague of mine, but first of all, a friend. And I'm excited to do this as it's been a while that this has been in the works. We're also setting up a new retreat that is going to be held at the end of March. So mark your calendars 27th, 28th, 29th of March here in Quebec. It will be a weekend retreat focused on woman for woman in finding your own balance. And we are looking forward to seeing you. So without further ado, welcome Marjorie, an osteo, and she loves traveling. She used to be a nurse. She's a mother of four. She brings her healing to community work internationally, and she's recently finished her meta-osteo training. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for this beautiful introduction. First, I have to apologize because English is not my first languages, so it might be sometime difficult for me, but I'll try my best. So I'm great and happy to be here and finally do this
Yay!
podcast that we've planned for a long time. But now is the time, so let's do that.
Let's do it. We are recording this right at the of the new year 2026. It will not be posted so quickly, unfortunately. However, you will be hearing it within the next month or so. I would like to just put pointer out there. If your English is great, fantastic, keep going. If your French is great, please keep on listening as well, parce que il va y avoir des parties de cette conversation qu'on va continuer en français. You're an osteopath that I met before I started my acupuncture training years and years ago. And I was so smitten by you just as a person. And I was like, ooh, what a wonderful woman, so powerful in the way that you were treating, in the way that you were so human in your approach. And years later, we actually met again and we became friends without even thinking. It just kind of bled. Right. And ever since, we've gone through many different pieces of life, from happy times to not so happy times, to supporting each other, to family situations, to work situations. And through it all, you always seem to have this poise and this grace about you, like if nothing in the world matters. So you seem to have really learned to bring balance as an art form.
Well, you know what? We've been talking about that previously, but for me, all this research and I guess the research of my life will be to find authenticity. So for me, finding authenticity is a kind of balance. And I do agree that for me, nothing really matters because it's all about experience. Even if life shit happens in life, let's say that. But even if it happens, it doesn't influence my balance. My balance stay there because I'm not defined by the event of my life. It could be sometimes very hurtful, but I do not identify to the situation. For me, life is a big experience and I do enjoy it as much as I can. Even if sometimes as you say, sometimes it's not joyful and it's hard, but the experience in itself, you always learn something, and it's in your path. So I try, we all try sometimes to negotiate with reality, but let's say that facing reality, I try to connect with my authenticity and say, okay, well, this is it. And let's just go through it, and it will have a happy end, hopefully.
Well, let's start from the beginning, right? You went through nursing and you did that for quite a while, actually.
Yeah, for about 15 years, I'll say. So it's quite a while. But we start nursing career very early in lifetime, and I did have the chance to travel with that career, which I enjoy a lot. And so making true relationship and human experience through this experience. So it was a great opportunity. great experiences. And finally, just realize that the context for me of nursing was not appropriate in terms of politics, let's say.
For all the nurses out there.
Yeah. So I found it very hard as a human experience and say, well, okay, I've learned what I had to learn there and maybe just try something else that is more fulfilling for me. And that was more in human relationship, actually. And also, I have this curiosity about, okay, what's bring you into vulnerability or health dysfunction? Health dysfunction. So, and it's a lot of things actually, and the path is not always the same for everybody because we are all different. So I have this curiosity about just welcoming stories. I love stories. So welcoming stories of people and try to help them find their balance, actually. So, and for me, the first step is always like welcoming stories. It's like this thing about not trying to deal with reality. So, faire l'état des lieux. I love to say that, like, okay, what's there for me right now?
Mhm.
Okay. Then the other step is, what do I want to do with that? And sometimes we're stuck in mental construction patterns, des croyances limitantes, and also cultural and social and experimental beliefs that sometimes don't really belong to our true self. C'est pour ça que je dis des constructions mentales. Des fois, on se voit réagir, puis c'est pas en accord avec comme on aimerait réagir. C'est comme un programme automatique qui sort, qu'on a appris, puis qu'on reproduit parce que c'est ce qu'on connaît. C'est comme l'autoroute. And so, sometimes it's good to just observe what's going on right now and say, okay, do I feel comfortable with that? Or do I want to return to my true self or what's really makes sense to me? And that's, I think, in every part or piece of our life, like regarding our health, regarding our relationship, our inner relationship and interpersonal relationship as well as raising kids. For me, that's a deep one because it's really going to play with all the family traumas. And the family traumas could be also a big part of health system too. Sometimes we have beliefs that create unhealthy situation for ourselves because we don't feel comfortable or it doesn't make us any good to think like that. Then what is the next step?
Right. So you went from nursing to osteopathy because you were seeking for a different kind of balance and discovering that balance through the stories that our bodies tell.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Because I think for me, it's it's a fun approach because I really do think body has memory of all our lives. Let's put a S there, or memories of different reality or different influence that we have that our mind forget or tend to put aside because it's too much information. But the body doesn't lie mainly. So I find this relationship with people and authenticity really with the support or the stories of the body telling. And in general, I try to give a feedback about what I feel with the body of the people, and it opens door. Like, it's not my story. And for sure, there's always a billet d'interprétation there. Okay, so
Always is according to other people's interpretation and perception.
exactly. So it's really just open a door, and if it's resonate, we can go there. So we can address this. Or sometimes it doesn't need to be addressed,
Mhm.
and sometimes it don't resonate with the person because it's my own perception, and that's okay. Because we're all the leader and the responsible for our healing path. And that's something very, very important for me. It's the emotional responsibility. And I think as a healer or practitioner, we have to have this ethic about not entering where we're not welcome. So it
And we
goes
do it
with,
all the time
oh
too,
yeah,
right?
sure.
Like, let's just talk about 2025 and how it's been so heavy for so many people. We go back into those spaces where it's not so easy, so comfortable. And yet, how did you bring yourself back in those moments?
Well,
How
I think there's one thing about that. First, it's to welcome discomfort, because discomfort has something to learn. You
often
have to
something to
learn
learn
from
as well.
discomfort, maybe taking it in this sense. Oui, je pense que d'apprendre à se tenir dans l'inconfort, c'est toujours révélateur parce que ça nous parle de nos peurs, ça parle de nos limites, mais nos limites sont toujours aussi en fonction de nos peurs. Je pense que c'est intéressant d'apprendre à se tenir dans l'inconfort, apprendre à sonder nos peurs, d'apprendre à aimer aussi nos peurs parce qu'ils font partie de nous. Et donc, puis à considérer aussi nos peurs comme des émotions et non pas comme des obstacles. Je pense qu'on a tendance à faire ça quand on est dans une zone d'inconfort. Puis là, je vais parler pour moi, mais je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui vont se reconnaître là-dedans. Quand on est dans une zone d'inconfort, souvent notre système nerveux réagit. Puis là, it's like freeze, fight, flight, or dissociation.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's many reaction or possible reaction. Alors qu'on peut juste dire, en ce moment, je suis dans une zone d'inconfort. Qu'est-ce que ça dit sur moi? C'est pour ça que dans cette éthique-là du thérapeute, il y a aussi ça. Hein, il y a accepter de ou donner un support aux autres pour qu'ils traversent des zones d'inconfort parce que définitivement, quand on est dans un état où est-ce qu'on a besoin d'un petit peu de support pour retrouver un équilibre interne, on est généralement dans une zone d'inconfort. Donc, on est en grande vulnérabilité. Donc, on a besoin d'un espace sécuritaire au niveau affectif, au niveau relationnel et au niveau énergétique aussi.
Just to summarize for those that don't understand French, basically, she's talking about how discomfort is bringing our fears forward, and our fears are from emotions that we might have inherited. And some of these might be emotions that we think we need to deal with, but they're actually just obstacles that we need to strive to get towards and pass through so that we can get out of that freeze, fight, flight, fawn state of dorsal vagal shutdown, which is coming back to the Porges theory of ventral vagal sympathetic system versus parasympathetic system.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Just
didn't put it
in a short
sure.
in a short section.
Yeah.
So, and how that is really according to how we show up authentically as ourselves in our bodies when we are in a therapeutic interaction where we feel secure, emotional security, relational security, energetic security, and being okay just being within ourselves.
Yeah.
Is that
And
correct?
it's very correct. And one thing I want to maybe point more on or enlight is the fact that for me, avoiding discomfort create insecurity.
Mhm.
Okay. Because it's like, oh, there's a big danger there, but let's pretend it doesn't exist. Okay, for me, that's create a lot of insecurity. So it's one thing pointing the big danger and say, okay, are you ready to go through that right now? Or we just acknowledge it's there and we're going to go through that at your own rhythm and I'm going to be there to support you.
Mhm. And she's so good. You're so good at that. Thank you so much for everybody that has come to see you. Thank you so much. She has helped me through situations where I didn't even know that were stuck in my body. And really, honestly, it really makes a difference when somebody is there to guide you into seeing the things that you don't want to see or that you can't see because you're unfamiliar with how to express it or how to share it or how to experience it. You're not sure what's going on in your body sometimes, right? And these are the old patterns that we haven't released, that we haven't come to discover, explore, or to try and find balance for because we didn't know we were out of balance. And
Mm,
these might be from generational traumas, these might be from cultural belief systems or limiting beliefs that we have instilled on ourselves because of something somebody else said a long time ago. And it's really powerful to have a witness, a neutral witness that is willing to just be there. It's that being held state, that security of, oh, I could just put my bags down and, just be held in that space of me just being me with no masks, no titles, no status. And that right there, that becomes such a magical place to be because from there on, you could choose whether you step up and meet it if you're ready, or you could choose to say hello to it and put it aside until the time that you feel you're ready, you know?
Exactly.
So that's really powerful. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
that.
That's for me is part of it is respecting your own rhythm, but part of it is also respecting your path and your energy level. Because sometimes we have hard work to do, but we don't have the energy to do it right now. And that's okay. And it's all goes with having compassion for ourselves. And I was talking previously about emotional responsibility, but I don't just want to put that in perspective. So someone told me recently, and I find that very relevant, that in neuroscience, they say there's only 5% of our consciousness brain that is in light or active when we make a decision. So it brings back a balance into this responsibility. So let's take a 5% responsibility according, and that's an average. Take it with a bit of salt too.
Of course.
But let's take a 5% responsibility, and the rest of it generally is unconscious. So could we have de la bienveillance? I don't know what's the word in English for that. De la bienveillance envers nous-mêmes pour au moins 95% de nos actions. Fait que ça veut dire un 5% de responsabilité, c'est déjà suffisant. We have this tendency to, I will say, entertain negative thought about ourselves and to be our worst judge. And that's also a mental construction about performing, like being always at the top.
I know I've been in that position often.
Well, you're not alone in
Not
that
having that
position.
kindness towards myself in those moments of, not seeing myself as the top of what I could be or what I should be or, the judgment of others or the judgment of my family or the judgment of, my colleagues or my people I study with or like it's sometimes toxic.
Oh, yeah.
It can become very toxic. It's
Yeah, and
good to actually have that step back and to question yourself, but when it starts to become something that you wallow in and that you stay in and that you lose yourself in that mind, in that thought, then it becomes very toxic, not
yeah.
only for yourself, but for everyone else.
Yes, but I think the responsibility of that is not only individual, because that's also a cultural construction,
Mm,
okay, of performance and about always. And I really do agree with always be the best version of ourselves. But what if you considered as you always be the very best version of yourself? Like, I really do think everybody is really doing the best they can in every moment. And sometimes the best you can is not the same that tomorrow it will be, or the
right.
same that you wish it could be.
Mm.
But that's also negotiate with reality.
Let's negotiate with reality. Tell the universe. You tell the universe what you want. It doesn't mean that you'll always get it, though. You'll always get what you do need, though, right?
Hmm.
And that negotiating with reality without compassion and kindness towards yourself and towards all that noise that surrounds us is a little skewing of the results that we can bring out. My 100% today might be what it was, yesterday. My 100% might have been 100% of my 100%. And today my 100% is 80% of my 100%.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
that's fine.
That's perfect.
To still know that I did my best
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
it
Because
better.
sometimes, well, we don't know cycle and rest time and like there's many things going on.
Cycles and rhythms and rest. I mean, that is something that so many people have mistakenly seen as laziness or procrastination or excuses.
Yeah. And even like the respect of our own rhythm. Because you're doing things slower doesn't mean you're a slow person. And we all understand things differently and we all have a different mindset. And that's what create harmony in between people. But without respect, it creates chaos. And
Let's
that's
talk.
a hard thing.
I always wonder what kind of, respect, not to bring any politics in here, but some of the leaders of this world, most specifically in the south of Canada, it always kind of
Kind
boggles
of if
my
I
mind.
hear the name there, but it's okay.
Right, exactly. I didn't say a word. I didn't call names or anything. But it's funny how that is so different from one person to another, from one group to another. How sometimes some people will say, for example, some people will say, I respect science. And others will say, I respect spirituality. And then others will say, well, there is no difference.
Exactly.
Science is the spirituality. You are God. God lives within you. And you choose to.
Yeah, but that's also a different perspective. And I really love in this perspective, I really love this key of nonviolent communication. Okay. Because they say first is the emotion, because you interact with your surround with emotion, with your environment. So the perception you have about politics or about whoever, okay, it's first create an emotional reaction, which is really personal to yourself according to your experience and belief and thoughts. And then there's what's the emotion reveal about your needs. And the funny thing about it, it's we all have the same needs as human being, but we all have different strategy to respond to our needs. So let's take this example of politics. And as you say, there's many ways to react to it. Okay, so different emotion. It creates different emotion amongst people. Then the need, even if the reaction is very different, the need might be the same. So it's interesting to see. If we talk about politics, for example, I will say that in French because it will be easier for me. Par exemple, si les deux on a un besoin de sécurité. Sauf que ton besoin à toi de sécurité passe par un message qui est très clair, qui est très rigide, qui est très encadré. Là, je me sens en sécurité. Donc, je vais être en accord avec des mesures plus drastiques ou plus contrôlantes. Si une autre personne, son besoin de sécurité passe par la liberté d'expression, c'est sûr que là, oups, on n'a pas les mêmes stratégies pour répondre à notre besoin. Parce qu'on est deux personnes différentes, mais notre besoin, il est le même. On peut choisir de voir nos différences, et il y en a, puis je pense qu'il faut les voir aussi, mais nos différences sont principalement dans notre réaction émotionnelle tributaire de notre vécu. Nos besoins sont les mêmes. Fait qu'à ce moment-là, c'est de voir, OK, on a les mêmes besoins, mais définitivement, ils passent par des stratégies. OK, comment on fait pour répondre à nos besoins en tant qu'être humain en reconnaissant ces différentes stratégies-là? So the thing with politics is that it runs le cadre. It creates a cadre.
Frame.
Yeah,
So,
that could be restrictive sometimes.
right. So the security of one versus the other can be more boxed in and the other more in the expression of self, which is
Exactly.
a very different security, but still instills their need for security
Exactly.
in a different way.
Yeah. So just according to that, it's mainly recognize what is the need and then try to find a strategy that you can feel you need. So sometimes it's not true politics that you will find it, and sometimes it is regarding of who you are.
I love that. So I'd like to actually thank you so much for that, first of all.
You're welcome.
I'd like to take that need for security, that need for expression, that need for, becoming the best part of ourselves. It's all nice and dandy that we're talking philosophically and, you know, making it very general, but for the listeners out there, I'd like to know, what is it that brings you security and how do you instill it in your life?
Well, for me, and that's a very personal, I think, response, but for me, security passed through liberty. So for me, that's a huge thing. So I will find my liberty in nature, for sure, in meditation, because, and that, like, I must say, COVID had a big impact on my mindset about it, because it was a time where we had a lot of restriction in regard of mobility, in regard of liberty, in regard of social contact, which is all for me food for my need of liberty. So then I say, and that's when I started to study meta-osteopathy, which is for I guess many people don't know what is meta-osteo.
So can you explain us a little bit?
So how I explain it, it's the study of electromagnetic field through the practice of osteopathy and the utilization of this tool to get more balance into the body. For me, that was the moment where I say, okay, I cannot travel and I cannot, well, this strategy that I have to feed my need of liberty is not accessible right now. So how would I feed this need of liberty? And I say, well, I can always work with my mindset. I had a lot of beliefs, really scientific and rational beliefs about energy, for example. Okay, like I recognize there's electricity in the body but how does it create fields and how does that interact? I don't know a lot about that. So I say, if I can't travel physically, I will travel in my mind. And that's how I start to study meta-osteopathy. And for me, it was really a world of different perspectives. So it was a great and huge travel in my own mental construction. And it really gives me a great tools to go more deeper into balance of ourselves and into this security of the energetic field, which I was not really conscious. I was, because I could perceive it before, but that was the kind of thing like, it exists, but I won't go through it because I don't know. Maybe it was like limited beliefs and fears for sure. And so I took this experience and it was a lot of fun. It still does because it's never ending story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. So through meditation, through nature, through meta-osteo, from changing your understanding of the magnetic fields and the different layers of world that we live in, and bringing that into the healing of the body that is speaking, because the body never lies, you bring that security to yourself before you bring it to others.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Of
Sure.
course. Of
It's
course.
it's always for me. It's always a kind of a back and forth work because, as I say, every people is an experience and a story.
Mhm.
Well, for me, and I don't say that as a clinical constatation, right? For me, I consider myself and my life as I choose some experience to live and some not, and it's okay. Begin when I was in nursing, I was more tough. I will say that like that. I think you have to be very tough to be in nursing. Um,
Shout out to all the nurses out there. Woo! Thank
yep.
you for your work.
Oh yeah, sure, big hug. But then that's what one part of my realization was that I'm not so tough, and to be authentic with myself, I should try to be in a more human and heart-centered field and relationship.
So security brings to liberty, brings to authenticity in a more human, heart-centered approach.
Well, it's bring you, for me, security is essential for going forward and to afford your fears.
To not be limited by your
Ouais.
fears.
Tu as besoin d'avoir assez de sécurité parce que faut que tu te lances dans l'inconnu un petit peu pour affronter tes peurs, hein.
Me
Puis
bringing
pour que tes
to
peurs
you,
soient pas une limitation, parce que si on reste toujours dans un système de peur, on reste toujours dans le connu, on n'apprend rien.
or learn something new.
Exact. Puis pour moi, ça nuit à mon sentiment de liberté, définitivement. Je suis quelqu'un de curieux, j'aime ça apprendre, j'aime ça, me lancer dans l'inconnu, mais si je le fais avec bienveillance envers moi, avec douceur, aussi dans, je vais dire, une zone d'inconfort, que je puisse affronter. Tu sais, si, genre j'ai pas besoin, je vais dire ça comme ça, mais j'ai pas besoin de me péter la gueule pour apprendre quelque chose, OK? J'ai besoin d'apprendre à me tenir dans l'inconfort puis affronter mes peurs, mais j'ai pas besoin de me faire ramasser. Fait que ça,
So,
c'est un engagement envers moi de me dire: «J'y vais avec douceur, avec bienveillance, puis je vais faire le travail que j'ai besoin de faire». Tu sais,
so to go, just to reiterate, to go towards those fears and the unknown with curiosity, kindness, and lots of compassion so that you can um, break those patterns, those barriers, those limits for yourself so that you could actually come to that expression of liberty and
exactly.
authenticity within yourself.
Yeah, because
And
there's
hence through towards everyone else that you approach, right? Whether it's your kids, your husband, your colleagues, your friends, your clients, such an important aspect. So we talk about authenticity a lot everywhere. It's talked about authenticity. However, very often people are afraid of being themselves. People are afraid of showing up as they are because, well, it's not the way somebody else looks. Authenticity for me doesn't look like authenticity to someone else. And in this day and age, it seems like everybody needs to be very similar or in the same kind of clique or in the same kind of thought process. Otherwise, you're shunned or you're out of the norm.
Yeah,
And being in the norm is safe, right? Coming back
exactly.
to the
Coming back
unknown,
to a
coming
strategy
back
to,
to
uh,
the curiosity, coming back to how do you know who you truly are if you do not allow yourself to dabble in that curiosity of getting involved in the unknown with kindness and compassion.
yeah. And I really love what you say because for me, that's a very good description of what is unhealthy. Because we all tend to want to feed this need of security while going through the avoidance of our true self. And that's create a big discomfort. So for me, the response to that is, okay, well, we all have fears. Okay, it's okay. Then take your fear by the hand and go
Walk it
for
through.
it. Walk it through. Yeah, that's it, exactly. But not only with fear, because it won't be a very great experience then, but with, as you say, curiosity and
Have
like
fun.
adventure is fun.
Play.
Play,
Play.
exactly.
Something that so many
Yeah,
have forgotten about.
it's really
Play.
like focus on what brings you joy in that movement, not only the fear. Because if you focus on fear, there's a big chance you will never advance.
But
You will stay there.
the interesting thing is once you get through your fear, you might stumble a bit, you might fall a couple of times, you might, just like you're skating for the first time, obviously
Exactly.
you're going to
You'll
fall a
learn.
couple of times, you're going to
Exactly.
learn your way. And eventually, that joy of being able to put one step in front of the other and slide through on the ice, like if there was nothing that could stop you, in flow, in that state of beingness, in that presence of being within yourself, within that trust, within um, that, that, that belief and that, what's the word I'm looking for?
Fate.
That faith, thank you, that faith that, "Hey, I was able to do this, and I am proud of myself, and I could step forward again," and doing it
Hmm.
over and over and over until it becomes just a practice of play
Exactly.
with the reality that we keep on
Yeah.
negotiating for.
And that's a very good example of how to rebuild neurologic systems that was limited by thoughts or by beliefs. Like it's the same thing that's saying, okay, well, that thoughts or that belief doesn't bring me joy. So how could I change that to, and I really do think you need discipline for sure. You need consistency and you need also to focus on what's bringing you joy or what's is pleasant in that. So for some people, it will be to play with it. For some people, it will be the liberty that it creates. For some people, it will be the connection with ourselves that it creates. But all those things that you connect with belongs to the love family.
So I think there's one thing that you haven't mentioned that's really, really important. For us to actually go forward and break down some of these limiting beliefs, these fears that come into security, that hierarchy of Maslow's needs, coming back to that authenticness. There's one thing that's missing, and most people are missing of it more and more. And our society, our systems have come to hide more and more with all this noise and this extra information and all these apps and these short videos that are rotting our eyes and our ears and our minds. It's presence and moments of stillness that allow us to just notice, become aware of, and be able to even address all of these thoughts in, these constructions that we want to create in our minds and our lives and our momentum
Yeah.
forward. So you're very good at keeping presence and bringing that understanding to people, whether it's through your clients or your students or your family or your friends, even in spaces where we're just getting together for a chat and some food. What is it about presence that you can bring to the table that would complete our understanding of this is not just a mindset thing? It's not only about a choice and a belief system. It's not
Hmm.
only about dealing with our fears and anxieties or our limiting beliefs, but it's about coming back to the essential point that a lot of people talk about but never really practice consistently.
Yeah. Um, it's fun that you bring that back because I think previously when we were talking about welcoming people in their reality, for me that's presence. Okay. So and if you're present for somebody else, then the people will be present into ourself, into themselves, sorry. But it all goes together. Like if you're present in yourself, so acknowledge your own fear state, where you are, what's going on in yourself. So then you can just be there and have a quality of presence that you're ready to welcome the other in their reality and not throw your own emotional or thoughts or things on the people. So it's about consciousness of yourself, self balance, and then you can be present for the other. And it's kind of a, I will say, trickle down effect, but contamination effect as well as stress. The more you're present and centered, the more you will offer this quality of being to the other, and it will bring other to be also more centered in themselves because they can be seen as they are. They don't have to act as. And even more, like if they act as, it will create a dissonance. So it's all about creating harmony, I will say, kind
Mhm.
of. But it's not only harmony. I will take this concept of presence and maybe bring it a bit more further. Because for me, presence is the first step. And as I say, it's something to cultivate. Because to be present, you need to acknowledge where you are at this moment, what is your state, and what you are willing to share and what you're not because you don't have it in stock.
Right, right,
Okay.
because you have not built the capacity, because you've lost the capacity, because it's been a busy month at work, because your kids or your friend or somebody just said something that just threw you off and, you know, reignited something from your childhood or whatever it may be, right?
Exactly.
But in that presence, you're also, if I understand correctly, you're also co-creating that safety and that security
Exactly. And that's the thing I
and that
want to bring.
co-regulation.
Yeah. That's the thing I want to bring a bit more further is that presence is one thing, but we also, in our individualist world, we also forget that we're linked with other. So community and connection will be something else to consider in that because we're not really separate from the other. If you feel something, it will affect me for sure. And I will feel it, but there's a difference to be in reaction. So say, I don't like your stress. It's not mine. I can feel it. And for sure it could create discomfort. Okay. But then if I welcome the fact that, okay, I'm in discomfort because there was a lot of stress there, but it's not personal, it doesn't belong to me, and I don't identify to this, we can still be in connection and create something great together. We don't have to be limited by it, by that, because we all have trauma, right?
Yes, of course. In that
But
community and that connection where all of our hearts are connected through this invisible string that nobody sees and people forget. In that presence and in that co-creation of moments of mindfulness, of kindness, of compassion, of understanding, where we don't lose ourselves in somebody else's story. We don't take their emotion or their glitch in moment of time onto our backs and become responsible for theirs. Leave it for them. How can we create more anchoring in ourselves? And how do you do it for yourself? That was a big question.
yeah, no, it's okay. But yes, well, I think it's always the same thing as, first of all, acknowledge.
Acknowledge.
And, like, okay, this is going on. Okay,
And
this
to
is,
name it.
and to name it. This is your responsibility, and I'll be there for you to support you, but I won't take your responsibility because it's not mine and I cannot deal with that. I must say we do that a lot,
Mm.
taking the problem of others. And as mother is kind of, you're not a good mother if you don't act like that. Okay, and this is a limiting belief. Okay, but I just want to explain how it works because it's a hard belief with this society. We tend to believe if your kids has a bad behavior is because you're a bad parent and you don't have any ability, and we ourselves judge ourselves about that. No, so that's just an example of how you can take the responsibility for others. Okay, so there's part of the responsibility parents take because the kids are not mature enough to take responsibility. But that's not only about parent to take this responsibility, it's about society. To acknowledge the kid is not mature. So mature. So you cannot expect from them the same thing you would expect from an adult. And that's a big mental distortion that we have. Like a kid who is doing a crise de bacon on the floor, that's his way to express his own tantrum and emotion. It's not because he have bad behavior. No, it's because he's full of emotion, and that's okay. Like, he will release his emotion. Maybe that's not the best strategy ever, okay? It's not yourself. It's not your responsibility. It's not your emotions. You can just have compassion for the kids. Poor little thing. Like, he's going through a hard time. Okay? And then that's it.
And not have judgment over it.
Exactly. And I give this example of kids because it's easier to not have judgment towards a kid, but we still do have some.
Of course.
Okay?
Always.
We still do have some.
We are human.
And as parent, you take responsibility for how your kid behave. Like, you say, oh, well, that's not really appropriate. And I see people getting mad or feeling bad about what's my kid is doing. So we take the responsibility of the act of others, okay? But even in the case of a kid or somebody else, it's never a good thing to do that. Because let's take it just energetically. If you take responsibility for the others, you take their energy and their inner power to change the situation, but you cannot change nothing for them. So you just charge yourself with negative energy that don't belong to you and that charge you negatively, and that you cannot do nothing with that. So it's really negative as a pattern. If you return the energy to the other person, then you re-give his inner power to do what is the best and what they can do the best with their energy.
With what they have, with what they know.
Exactly.
Right.
Without the judgment of saying, I know better than them what they should do with that. Right. No, I don't. And it's not my energy, and it's not my power, and it's not my experience of life.
And not to be, pushing that back and deciding that that's not good enough for me and just walking away and ignoring it, but to be with it. Okay. It happens once, twice. Okay. A third time, fourth time, and it's always on your time. Maybe that's, am I enabling? Am I creating? Am I projecting? And letting that off of that equation that we kind of mix up in our interactions. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting because I know so many adults that don't even know their own emotions and thought patterns and limiting beliefs. And they don't know how to express it. They don't know how to manage it. And a lot of us are stuck in anxiety. A lot of us are on medication. And thank God for, the health system that does have these opportunity for us to take a medication that can help different struggles that we might have chemically. Sometimes it's necessary, but there are also ways of learning how to build better resilience. There's also ways of, learning about emotions, learning about sensations, learning about our awareness, learning about our body's responses and conversation with us, which we barely ever listen to, honestly, and to allow that to become part of our experience rather than the judgment of, well, I know better. Well, no, you just know different. You don't know better, you just know different. And for you to assume that you know better than somebody else is already creating a situation in a relationship, in that co-creation and that regulation, that community, that connection that is not welcome.
Exactly. And that's really the difference for me between a good leader and a bad leader. So, as a good leader, and you can change the word leader for whatever responsibility role that you have. Okay. So, means a parent, a mother, a friend. Okay. And just as human being. So a good leader for me, it's somebody that will put in light or enlight the strength of other and have an unlimited confidence in their inner power to make their best and decide what their wheels are and where they want to go. Okay, so just to be a support system.
So the people that are not listening, that are not seeing this, as I don't like video, whatever reason, Marjorie, as she's actually saying this, she's putting her hands out with her fingers spread out, and it's coming towards my heart. Like if she was actually sending this message directly to my heart and my being. And she has seen me in leadership roles many, many times, and she keeps on telling me, "Why don't you step up?" And I keep on, worrying that I'm not good enough. So just, an out time, an out moment right now. And I really felt that when you say and you have your hands out and you're talking about leadership in creating these moments where you bring out the best in people, in creating these moments where conversation and communication become the power of any group and judgment has no space there. That really is creating good leadership, whatever role, responsibility that you have in any kind of group. Thank you for that. I just needed to take a moment and notice that because it really touches me because she has seen me through all kinds of struggles and I'm still the same person and she sees me for who I am. I know this, but somehow when we don't see ourselves in that way, having that one person, that two people that really truly just see that three people,
Yeah,
that
we
really
need three people at
that
least. I will
really
talk about
see
that
us.
right after.
It really makes a difference in how we step up and how we show up in the world. And if nobody knows that you don't have those three people and you have the possibility of asking someone to be that person, even for that just that moment, it doesn't have to be all the time, just that moment. Find two, three people in that moment that you're trying to be that leader, to anchor yourself in that mindset of who you are in their presence, how you are your best self in those moments where it's the most important and where you can really shine and shine others, help others to shine as
Exactly.
well.
I will talk about that a bit more because I think it's very interesting. This because it goes with the interconnection I was talking previously. Okay, with the presence and bringing presence to others while a support system. And that comes from studies that had been done about breastfeeding. Okay, so they say to have a successful breastfeeding, you have to have a support system of at least 3 person that believes in your breastfeeding. Okay, I really do think we can extend this concept to many other theme or subject. Okay, I really do think when you're trying hard to change some bad habits, as uh, could be quitting smoking. Okay, you need a support system of 3 person and doesn't have to be person really near you. It could be like sometime when I say that to my client, I say, well, you can use me. Okay, I can be part of your support system as that's my job, but I really do believe unconditionally that people can change and believe in their inner potential to do it. So you need to have a support system of 3 person to make any change. So it helps you because that's also like one thing of the individual mind thinking that we're alone in our thing. And that's one thing that creates
that spiraling effect in the toxic state of
exactly.
mind
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Not
pushes us
opening through
away from
others
our
and
true
not,
reality.
yeah, and not trusting that you can go forward. So I really do think in many situations you cannot do it yourself. You need a little help because you're stuck in your own reality. And sometimes, and we all have des angles morts. So you need
Blind
somebody to,
spots.
yeah, exactly, to point that out for you and to help you be a support system so you can step forward.
This reminds me of a person that keeps on always questioning, how do you do it, Sarah? How do you just get up and go and try again and again? And it boggles her mind. And really, honestly, it's just, how can I not just get up and try again and go again and come back to those bases that guide me in my body, my sleep, my food, my well-being, sunlight, these basics that are non-negotiables for me. If I don't come back to them, I always have a hard time getting out of that state of mind of, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do?" And this downward spiral that doesn't bring me anywhere. But when I do come back to myself, I get sick and tired of, "Okay, that downward spiral is enough. It's time for me to get up and go." I just go, "Okay, is my sleep good? Moving enough? Am I feeding myself? Do I have that one person that I could talk to? And if I don't, how can I create that?" Even if it's the person at the corner of the street where I get my morning coffee, just saying hello to that person, can change the way that you interact in the rest of your day.
Sure.
And so bringing that mindfulness and that compassion and that kindness, la bienveillance dont on parle, to being online versus offline, in my mind, in my heart, in my presence, in my being, will always help me go forward. So, in the same token as, those three people, it can be somebody that you know from a long time ago that said something to you. It could be somebody that you just call once in a while to say, "Hey, how you doing?" It could be that person that you call and say, "Hey, you got 8 minutes?" They found these studies that say all you need to really be heard and listened to, felt like you're witnessed and seen so that you could get out of one of those spirals, is 8 minutes. 8
Mm,
minutes of having a conversation with someone without judgment, without expectation, without anybody telling you what to do, but just 8 minutes to just be able to download and let go. So if you can get in touch with someone and say, "Hey, do you have 8 minutes to offer me? Can you call me? I just need 8 minutes." And that could be your special signal with someone.
sure.
If that can be it, then great, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this whole conversation started because I asked you, what is your version of bringing presence, connection, community, and co-regulation in your life? So
Mm,
we have all these beautiful concepts, but concretely, how can we bring it into our daily lives as a
yeah.
woman? Yeah, let's start with that because as a woman, I know you have this special understanding of women's bodies. I have so many more questions how it shifts from a woman's perspective
Mm,
versus a man's perspective because
that's
our
a whole other
brains
day.
don't work the same, and I know that it's not only women that are listening to this podcast. So, for you as a woman, as a healer, what is it that brings you back to that anchoring of presence, community, connection, in being yourself at 100%
Yeah.
of whatever it is energy that you have in that
Okay.
day?
Let's say daily routine. Okay.
Right.
And for me, there is no, I will say it like that, but there is no routine as the routine is adaptable to everyday mindset and energy and what's planned. So I will say the needs stay there, but the way to feel them is different. But I have to keep that in mind. The first thing when I get up in the morning is consent. Okay. So taking the time to just wake up. So that's one very important thing for me. Like, making peace with what like my dream were and what is my mindset right now, how is just a knowledge and welcoming the day that's coming, but also trying to tune it with my inner energy. So knowledge where I am this morning, who I am this morning could be as well. Like, am I in a high energy level, or I am more mood, or do I feel inflammation in my body that makes me have a rhythm, a slower rhythm? What are my needs? Do I need to move? Do I need to drink more? Like, kind of just a little scan of what's going on there. Okay. And hi, hey, welcome to the day. So I really love to also welcoming whatever is the weather. Because, like, we live in Canada, there's a lot of weather change, and that's one of our favorite social connection subject. But for me, it's really significant because it does influence our energy. And where do we take our energy as well? If it's a very sunny day, I doesn't really have to think about it. Like, sun will do the job.
Yes, always.
But if it's a very dark day without sun, like we had 36 hours of sun in all the month of November. It's not a lot. So for sure, you have to find your energy somewhere else.
And having that sun, when we do have that sun, 5-10 minutes first thing in the morning to actually allow the rays of the sun to touch your retina, your eyes, so that your brain actually does its own biochemical changes is just a great start to your day. So that's okay, that's one.
Exactly. So starting the day is the first thing. And consent also to what's there. I consent, I agree. Like, there's, OK, genre, c'est peut-être pas un jour où est-ce que je vais aller marcher parce que je vais me péter la gueule. Si j'ai besoin de bouger, il va falloir que je m'en occupe autrement. Tu sais, and consent to that. Parce que je peux aussi pas consentir puis être very moody all day long because, fuck, I wanted to walk today.
But it's cold and it's
That's
rainy
kind of
and it's
trying to negotiate with reality. C'est un peu ça de
and
la
accepting that and just getting over it.
Fait que mon environnement inclut, oui, la température qu'il fait dehors, mais aussi, ben, mon chum, tu sais, s'est levé stressé, puis là, il est parti sur quelque chose et ça va faire partie de ma journée, il faut que je négocie avec.
So
Tu sais, ouais, puis il faut que je tune aussi. Si j'ai un enfant qui est malade cette journée-là, ça se peut que mon horaire ou ma journée, elle soit pas pareille comme si tout le monde est super en forme. Fait que c'est un peu ça, c'est de rechercher, OK, mes besoins, ils restent toujours là. Comment je vais m'en occuper en fonction de la journée, que ça soit harmonieux, parce que ça, c'est un autre besoin aussi. Moi, j'ai un très fort besoin d'harmonie. Fait que j'ai besoin de sentir que les gens autour de moi sont pris en compte.
So
OK?
choosing harmony by having consideration about where other people are in their state of mind.
Exactly.
Choosing harmony nonetheless, right?
Mhm.
Despite everything.
Okay. So that's one of the things. So regarding that, si j'ai une journée de travail, c'est sûr que j'ai besoin de ma petite routine d'étirement pour me sentir dans mon corps parce que mon corps, c'est mon outil de
Stretching.
travail. Avec ça, j'ai besoin de bouger, j'ai besoin de faire circuler, j'ai besoin de respirer, puis j'ai besoin de bien m'alimenter, ce qui passe beaucoup par bien m'hydrater.
Prepping your day for your work, whatever your work is,
Whatever it is,
with intention.
yes. And I will say it's also modulate everything, actually. Like, be open mind and flexible to what happened and what presents. Puis ça, on est tous différents par rapport à ça. Là. C'est correct parce qu'on a tous des besoins différents. Pour moi, c'est si, bon, mettons, un de mes enfants va m'offrir de faire le repas, puis ça l'arrive, mon fils adore la poutine, il va faire de la poutine. C'est pas mon menu de choix pour bien m'alimenter, mais c'est correct, j'apprécie le geste qu'il fasse de la bouffe pour moi. Je suis capable de manger ça pour exprimer ma reconnaissance. Je vais peut-être me faire des crudités à côté pour m'occuper plus de mes besoins parce que ça ne nourrira pas vraiment. Puis je vais peut-être être obligée de moduler un peu aussi le programme du reste de ma soirée parce que sinon, je vais avoir envie d'aller me coucher tout de suite après parce que j'aurai plus d'énergie.
Mhm.
Et peut-être je vais me dire, ah, je vais
Some
je vais
nourishment.
prévoir d'aller prendre une petite marche après parce que sinon, peut-être je dormirai pas bien. C'est vraiment accueillir qu'est-ce qui se présente, puis le moduler en fonction de mes besoins, puis de mon
So
énergie.
if nourishment is on the top priority, to make sure that you modulate your expectations of what comes. If your son makes poutine and it's too heavy of a food, you still eat it, you still appreciate it because of the effort and love that was put in it. However, you might consider a walk afterwards just to regulate all that heaviness in your stomach so that you could actually have a good night's sleep. So
Exactly.
it's a choice of coming back to what is it that's gonna nourish me? Am I having my vegetables on the side? Can I do a little something extra to make sure that in consideration and appreciation of another, I can have consideration and appreciation of myself in
Yeah.
whatever state or form or situation that is?
Ouais. Mais tu sais, ça, c'est parce que moi, j'ai cette malléabilité-là aussi par l'alimentation que d'autres n'ont pas, tu sais. Je pourrais aussi dire: «Hey, je suis intolérante au lactose, je ne mange pas la poutine, mais merci beaucoup d'avoir cuisiné pour tout le
Mhm.
monde». Tu sais, d'avoir offert de faire le souper, de prendre cette responsabilité, ça me décharge puis je l'apprécie,
Mhm.
tu sais. Fait que, hem, fait que je pense que c'est dans l'appréciation aussi de ce qui se présente. Personnellement, tu sais, c'est sûr que I have this burned mind about seeing always the positive in everything. I cannot say I was always like that. And I cannot say it's always natural, but I can do this effort to see the positive and to enjoy the
Mhm.
positive of the situation.
Really being in that gratitude state of, okay, well, there is positivity in all situations, even when it's not so fun to experience the situation or the situation is not my ideal, but there is a positive, there is a lesson, there is something to learn from. There is uh, wisdom that comes out of it, and to focus on that wisdom and that gratitude of whatever it is that's showing up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to know that you have it in you to make that choice of choosing to
And
see the
yeah.
gratitude.
And it's always also choosing I will say humility, but sometimes you're creating situation towards yourself that is not easy or not fun. And I think learning to laugh about yourself and about those situations really helps not to take it so stressful and so personal. It's just like, okay, I did that. I see it. And
Oh, well, okay.
well, yeah, like, okay.
How am I gonna fix this now? Or maybe it's not even about fixing sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just about acknowledging and noticing, witnessing yourself in that state so
yeah.
that you can choose and witness something different next
Yeah,
time.
and recognize this sense of humor that is
Humor.
present in a lot of situation. You can really choose. Sometimes it's like the expression "rire jaune," like
Humor me.
yeah, you force yourself to laugh about it because it's not really fun, but at the same time, like you create this situation. So yeah,
I
let's be
love that.
humble and recognize your part of responsibility, and it's not nobody will die about it.
And I know that you, just because I know you and I've seen you in all states and all seasons, but I know you bring this every day. But what happens when you're going through a cycle? So coming back to being a woman or having all these different seasons of time in a year, whether it's summer, fall, winter, spring, or whether it's the cycle in a woman's body, or whether it's a sleeping cycle. How do you keep that even in these cycles, in these
Mhm.
different cycles that kind of make us go up and down in our
Yeah,
minds, in our bodies, in our energy, in our
yeah.
magnetic field?
I
I
think
don't know if
it will
that's
be yeah, but I think it will be the same answer because it's something about attitude and recognize what you're going through. So sometimes you're in a big you want things to go forward and you try to force them, but then you recognize, okay, no, that's now in that cycle. I'm just resting and I will welcome the rest because I need it and it will give me force to something else that's coming. And so, like, welcoming this stage, and sometimes we have ourselves a bit of resistance to transition. So it's also great to just recognize, okay, I feel resistance now and it's uncomfortable because I have some limited belief, fears, and everything, but it's okay. It's just like for me, working on my limited belief has been a very great key to pass through a lot of stress in my life. I had some period, the hormones time when your hormones shut down a bit
I know.
because we're going older in this stage of perimenopause
And menopause.
and menopause, yeah. And so the hormone balance is not always stable. So we have to adapt. So if you're in resistance to adaptation, you will have a hard time. But then I realized myself I had some limited beliefs about, for example, this, okay, you should eat 3 times a day, or you should sleep this amount of time to have a good night's sleep. And I was, okay, maybe if I just try to welcome what's there, first it's less stress, and then it helps me sleep better then.
Mhm.
And then trying to have in mind that what's important is the recuperation or the rest is not, well, I would prefer to sleep, but sometimes it's not possible. It's not accessible for me right now. So what do I choose to do? Turning and be unsatisfied about not sleeping, or just trying to do meditation, keep my mind calm and recuperate the energy I need for the day. So it's about choice, everyday choice we made. And for me, this period of hormonal disbalance, it's all about stress managing. So realizing that I'm going through maybe more stress I would think I have, but it's also because of the hormones decreasing, the resistance to stress is less because we have more cortisol secret because less estrogen. So
And
it's
naturally, also, I think being aware that you're rebalancing of
mhm,
these and acceptance of this new state or of this new phase doesn't have to look exactly like you used to be 5 years ago, 10 years
exactly.
ago, 20 years ago, because you have changed. Your body
Mhm.
has changed, your time has changed,
Yep.
your mindset has changed, your wisdom has changed, and you're allowed to shift out of that. And if people don't recognize you or don't understand, that's okay too. For you not to take it personally because that's part of that resistance that we keep trying to fight against,
Yeah. And
right?
even if you yourself, you don't recognize you, it's okay too. Because you must allow the process to go on. And sometimes it's through you. And it's okay to be a bit lost in that.
That
We don't,
curiosity back.
yeah,
Yay.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going to lead. And I think you have to have this fate of, okay, I'm just surrounding to the process,
Surrendering.
surrendering. Yep. Um, and it will be what it will be.
So we talk about a lot of this mindset and this belief system and these limiting beliefs and how to create this connectivity, that community, that co-regulation, that safety, that security of expression by anchoring through presence and these different forms, whether it's discipline, consistency, choosing play or joy, choosing to meet the discomfort, the unknown with curiosity. Now, what if we just need a moment to rest in
Mm.
these different phases and cycles of maybe a little more of a downtime versus all this activity and this yang energy? How do you specifically bring rest as a, a passive or active way of bringing that balance and that
Mhm.
humility to meeting a moment where it is?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I started to do, like that was 5 years ago, where I say, okay, well, now I feel that my kids are old enough or like and I need to redefine me as a woman. And so I need to step back from that, take a rest, take a break, and just live for myself and by myself. So that's kind of a routine I make every year, to take at least a week to take time for myself, do a retreat, do a travel, whatever, but it's should be something nourishing and resourcing for me, only me and myself. And I wish that to every woman.
Every woman should have that. Totally
I
agree.
really do think so.
So that's one type of rest. And what are two other different kinds of rest that you bring?
For me, rest is about regulating the nervous system, right? So, connection with nature will be one for sure. And then maybe another one will be tune. I use a drum a lot. I drum. And so that's one also way to regulate nervous system and to rest into drumming. So just listening to the sound, and also voice activation. It's something really restorative and resourcing for me.
I love that. So bringing some sound and healing through sound and activating the sound through our own body to regulate our nervous system as a way of creating rest in our body.
Exactly. To create, I will say, resonance and harmony into
Mm.
ourself.
And that
So to be in
naturally,
tune.
right.
Yep.
And to be in tune means activating those energetic fields that we have that are powerful through the heart out to the world.
Exactly. And that's what I think we cannot do when we're not rested. If your sympathetic nervous system is activate, you will be in survival mode. So you will be in chaos mainly.
Yay for chaos! Not really. But it's necessary, right? It's necessary chaos to eventually develop ourselves into that full potential of our being, to recognize the shadow as well as the light that's instilled within us, and to activate that and accept those parts so that we can become better versions of ourselves, right?
Exactly. But we don't have to create more chaos. Chaos does exist. And I think it's not restful.
It's not restful to always be in that. It's restful to recognize it and learn how to regulate our nervous system so that it could deal with chaos with more peace, more
Exactly.
flow,
Yeah.
or more ease.
Self-centered
Mm.
and more also s-
Self-fullness.
exactly.
Yes, I
Yep.
love that. I got a couple really quick questions. What is something nobody knows about you?
That's very interesting. Well, okay, first thing that comes to mind, and I won't say nobody knows about that because I talk a lot. I love to share experiences mainly. But one thing that I learned from me is that I have different rhythm. So sometimes I can move and think very fast, and sometimes I'm really slow. So I have this different mode of rhythm. So that's something not a lot of people know about me.
And in one sentence, can you tell me what it is that inspires you to do the work that you do? Whether it's the teaching, the being an osteopath, meta-osteo, whether it's traveling and doing volunteer work abroad, whether it's with your kids. What is one thing, or what is it that inspires you in one sentence?
I will say it's sharing the beauty and the love of our experience as human being on Earth.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I always ask my previous guests to give me a question for the next person. And the question goes, in your case, what is the one thing that you'd like to do in 2026?
Um,
Maybe the word or
that's a good question because I've been asked that and I don't really know how to answer that. But I will try to resume that. I'm really in this stage of mind that I welcoming what's on my path and not trying to control or define or find something, but I'm not searching for something, but I find some things. So I will say that I want to continue in this path of finding highlights and enjoy every moment. So being present in this moment here.
you've been such a pleasure to have. You're always a pleasure to be around. If you guys are interested in more activating your energy centers, sound, voice activation, presence, authenticity towards yourself, first and foremost, and developing some of your full potential, as well as learning how to regulate your nervous system through different lenses, such as osteopathy, acupuncture, and somatic practices. We are having a retreat in March 27th, 28th, 29th here in Quebec. Keep an eye open on the website and there will be more details. If you'd like, you are welcome to leave us a message down below and let us know what you thought and what are things that are resonating for you from this podcast. I thank you very much, Marjorie, for being here. I thank you, the listeners, for taking the time to listen to this in one, two, or three parts. And I wish you a fantastic, easy, fulfilling new year ahead, wherever you are in the world. Thank you. good morning, good afternoon, and have a fantastic evening.
Thank you, Sarah.